I read 5 books this month, however, my thoughts on them all are a little more mixed than they are most months. Before I start, I want to say thank you for 200 subscribers, and if you're not subscribed already, please consider doing so below. I didn't really like Maggie Cassidy. I originally wanted to read On the Road by Jack Kerouac, however my library didn't have it, so I decided to pick up Maggie Cassidy again instead. It's a mostly autobiographical look at Jack Kerouac's life in high school in 1930s Massachusetts. I literally looked up how to pronounce that so many times and I don't know. Anyway, yeah, and it follows his relationship with a girl called Maggie Cassidy. I really wasn't a fan of this book. I thought Kerouac's writing style was really hard to follow, and at times he went for like almost full pages with no punctuation to like break up the sentences. It was just full pages of text, which made it really hard to follow, and his writing, he would write with accents and stuff, and I just didn't enjoy it, to be honest. Especially when there was dialogue between him and his friends, I just found it impossible to follow what was going on. There was literally no characterization as well in the books. All of his friends might as well have been one character because I could not tell any of them apart. The parts of him and Maggie were quite good, sometimes, but he never really showed us why he was so in love with this girl. It was very insta-lovey, and the only thing he really talked about was her looks, to be honest, and we're expected to believe that he's so in love with her and it's this great love story, but he never gives us any reason why. When he does talk about things that Maggie does and says, she doesn't even come across like well, and I just wasn't a fan. I actually would have DNF'd this book if it was any longer. I thought about doing it a few times, but it was like, if I remember, it's only about 200 pages up, even that. So I was like, right, I'm just going to push through, but I definitely wasn't a fan. Next, I read Loch of the Dead by Oscar de Muriel. I love this book. It's the fourth book in the Frey and McGray series, but it's the second one I've read. I read them completely out of order. I read the second one first and the fourth one. However, they're pretty independent stories, so I really would say if you think it sounds interesting, just pick it up, because I don't think you really need to know things about the other books before you can read this one, or even the last one. So this one follows Frey and McGray, two detectives who go to protect a young boy who is moving in with his real family for the first time. He's lived with a priest on like some faraway island or something, I don't even know, and he's just coming back to stay with his family, but he's had death threats put against him already. Before they can even get him, his guardian, the priest, is killed, and from there the mystery just unravels. I should say as well, it's set in Scottish Highlands in the 1880s, I think, and it's just such a lovely setting. Oscar de Muriel is really good at creating like really unique, interesting characters. Every single character is very, very unique. I don't know how else to describe them. They're all really interesting. They're all very layered. They all have backstories, and when you're trying to figure out like who the possible murderer could be and stuff, they obviously set up like people they want you to think, and then he just goes in a different direction, and whatever he does, and it never feels like it's coming out of left field, because when the explanations happen, it does really make sense because the characters are all just so layered. I also think he's really good at the way he describes how the mysteries are happening. So, like I said, there's a lot of twists and turns, but they never feel like cheap or like you couldn't be able to guess them, because when he actually explains what's happening, you realise that things do make sense, and there's been little clues like peppered throughout the story. I couldn't recommend this series enough, and I can't wait to read another one. I think I'm going to read I'm going to try and do them in order. I'm going to try and read the first one and then the third one that I've missed, and then I think there's a fifth one coming out at the end of this year, which I'm really excited for. Jane Eyre by Charlotte Brontë was my favourite book I read this month, and it's my new favourite classic. I already went into a lot of detail about it in my Classic Books for Beginners video, so if you haven't watched it, please do. I've had a lot of good feedback on it, and that's made me really happy because I put hard work into it. But yeah, go watch that video. So Jane Eyre is a fictional autobiography. Is that what they're called? Yeah, about the main character Jane's life. It follows her from primary school by age 10 up until her years working as a governess for Mr. Rochester as a nanny to his adoptive daughter. When she's working for him, she realises that she's in love with him, and the story escalates from there. I've realised that I really love this kind of setting, so I think Jane Eyre's late 1700s, so 1700s, 1800s, big manor houses, rich people with like dirty secrets, maids and like servants and stuff who just have to get involved and have to be nosy. I just absolutely love this kind of setting. The manors as well, they're always big grand manors in like isolated areas, so the stories are very self-contained. Loch of the Dead was the same, and Wuthering Heights is really similar, and that's by Charlotte's sister, Emily Brontë. So I just really love this kind of setting. I think it's great for this kind of drama. So I loved Jane Eyre mostly because of Jane's character. Jane is just such a strong, independent woman who stands up for herself at a time when women weren't expected to. She never backs down. She is there for justice and fairness, and I just absolutely loved her. She's knocked down so many times, but she perseveres. She picks herself back up. She survives poverty, heartbreak, starvation, so much abuse, and yeah, she just always gets herself back up and comes out on top. Shadows of Self by Brandon Sanderson is the 5th book in the Mistborn series and the 2nd in the Wax and Wane kind of sub-series. It's set, I think, 300 years after the events of the first 3 Mistborn books and follows directly on from the first Wax and Wane book. So this one follows the 2 detectives as they try to track down a killer who is attempting to start an uprising in the city which will overthrow the government. I was quite disappointed in this book. It's definitely my least favourite Sanderson book I've read, and it's not a bad book by any means, but I think at this point I was just expecting so much because I've just loved so much of Sanderson's other work. Around halfway through the book it started to get better, but the first half of the book we're chasing a killer who we've never met. We don't know their motives, which is kind of like, you don't mind that, but you just don't know anything about them. We're trying to protect a governor who we don't know anything about. We've never met him either. All we know about him is that he's kind of corrupt, so it doesn't really feel like there's any stakes because the characters we're invested in, which are Wax, Wayne, Marissa, is that her name? I don't know, the characters that we know, there's no stakes, like, so it's very, I don't know, I just wasn't invested in the story or what was happening. The last 100 pages really kind of pick up, and we are reintroduced to characters from the original Mistborn trilogy, which is kind of fun, and also there's a lot more world building in that last like 100 pages, which I think are a good setup for the next book. However, overall, it just kind of felt like a enemy of the week kind of story rather than like a grand story the way that the original Mistborn trilogy is. I was also disappointed because I thought the epilogue of the first Wax and Wayne book really set up a good sequel. I was really actually excited, and then that kind of storyline is just kind of dropped. I'm assuming he's coming back to it. Like, it's referenced throughout this book, but it's not really the main focus the way I thought it would be. I did enjoy the last 100 pages, but I definitely didn't love the book overall. I think I just expect more of Sanderson at this point. The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe is the first published book in the Chronicles of Narnia series by C.S. Lewis, and this was a reread for me. However, I haven't read it in probably, I don't know, at least 10 years, if not more than that. It follows 4 siblings who find the world of Narnia inside of their wardrobe and go through, and there they meet a host of like friends. They have to fight a witch. Like, it's just a really nice short fantasy story, and I really enjoyed it. I read it in one day. I probably could have read it a few hours, but I kept putting it down to like do other stuff. But I did still really enjoy it. The world building was great. Narnia just seems like, even though when we go to Narnia at first, it's like a bad place because of the witch and her powers and everything, blah blah blah. It still just feels like a really fun place to go and see, and like the animals are all just so interesting and cute. And the magic system in Narnia, in this book at least, it kind of feels very loose. And I enjoyed that. It wasn't like heavy on like rules or anything. So it is a children's book. So it was just a nice fun story. And very much like Alice in Wonderland, which I love, you really get a sense of like wonder and discovery because you're finding Narnia with the children. You know, they're coming from like the real world into the Narnia world. And I just thought it was a nice, fun book. And I definitely think I'm going to reread I haven't actually read most of them. I'm going to read the Chronicles of Narnia series maybe this month. I'm not really sure. But I definitely want to get around to them at some point. So those were the 5 books I read. Kind of a mixed month. I feel like the last few months I've been really lucky. I've just loved every single book I've read. However, this month I was kind of disappointed in Shadows of Self. I really didn't love Maggie Cassidy. But you know, the other three books really kind of made up for it, especially Jane Eyre. I love Jane Eyre so much, and I cannot recommend that enough. So thank you for watching. Please consider leaving a like and a comment. Let me know if you've read these books. As always, I love talking about the books with everyone else in the comments. And yeah, subscribe. I've already said that at the start of the video, but yeah, thank you so much for watching.